It's midday in Knivsta, a little Swedish town surrounded by idyllic Swedish countryside. I'm off to relax at a lake not far from here. It's a place called Särsta badet. Bad is to bathe or swim in Swedish. If the weather is kind, I'd like to read to you for a while by the water. I have a short story with me by one of Scandinavia's most loved authors. And the book has some incredible illustrations, painted by the author herself. So far, the sky looks promising, with just a few fluffy clouds. So let's hope we're blessed with a long spell of sunshine and we don't end up with rain and a bunch of soggy pages. At the moment, I'm approaching the edge of town, with the centre a stone's throw down that road there. You can see we're on a small crossroads here. And our destination is straight ahead. Weird noise. Oh, hello. There's a busy worker in the garden, cutting the grass. We'll leave them to it. The lawn is looking pretty splendid after all. Yeah, the full power of the September noon sun is beating down now. It's a balmy 15 degrees Celsius today. That's about 59 degrees Fahrenheit for those old school folk out there. I wonder if the crows are gathering for a story at the lake too. I mean, there's a little beach where I'm heading, so I totally understand the impulse. It's lovely out here. You see, there are some charming buildings in this neighbourhood. This red one to the right here is actually a church called Sankta Birgitta Kyrkan, so Saint Birgitta's Church. And the land across the road to it also belongs to the Swedish parish church. They have this curious and rather quaint tower that has a golden cockerel on the top. It looks to be some traditional farm building, but I actually couldn't work out what they use it for. Maybe I should ask someone. You might notice that there are a lot of wooden buildings painted a particular shade of red. Falu red is a dye that historically originated from the copper mines at Falun, which is further north, in the province of Dalarna. It's a beautiful and pretty famous part of Sweden that I've been wanting to visit for a long time. The tradition, though, dates back to the 16th century, and saw a resurgence of popularity in the 19th century. So much so, in fact, that the neighbouring Finnish, which have a very complex relationship with Sweden to say the least, have an expression meaning a red cottage and a potato field, referring to an idealised, and perhaps somewhat ironic, image of nuclear family life. A country house painted in Falu red, and some potatoes. What more does one need? Some people even paint their little fences Falu red. Very charming. So, let's swing right here. More Falu red coming up. Sounds like someone's cutting their hedges back there. Very picturesque. That noise you can hear now, though, is probably a train pulling into the station a few streets away. Stockholm, Sweden's capital, is only about 45 kilometres south of here, and Uppsala, a charming historic city known for its prestigious university, is just to the north. So this area actually used to be at the centre of the Kingdom of Sweden. There's a church just outside the town, often referred to simply as Knivsta Gamla Kyrka, which means Old Church, that was built in the 1300s. But although Sankt Stephen's Kyrkan is the oldest, there are 6 others in this area from the Middle Ages, and 9 in total. You get the idea, then, that this has been quite a significant religious site. And I know that it's no coincidence that this area, particularly Gamla Uppsala, Old Uppsala, was an important economic and political centre during the Scandinavian Viking Age. Basically a stronghold of pre-Christian Norse religion. There was unsurprisingly a concerted effort to reduce this influence, as Christianity in general, and Christian kings, gained power in Sweden and across Europe. I love that even in residential areas in Sweden, it's common to have little forested bits between the houses and apartment blocks. You can still come across these in dense urban areas of Stockholm, and I just find it very pleasant. Let's take a shortcut through this one. It's delightful. There are birds tweeting, a rough forest floor, wind rustling through the trees. Yeah, I love it. And in pure Swedish style. Oh, what's this? Yep, a little play area. It's all rather serene. They've even got a mini ship climbing frame in the sand. Adorable. You see, there's still plenty of housing in this part of town. But we're getting pretty close to the lake now. And believe me, it's worth the wait. These pockets of forest start to get denser as you go on. I can almost feel the open water and nature beckoning. Okay. Another right turn here. Ah, yes. There's a little preschool on the left, with trees all around. I've got to say, I never tire of seeing the sunlight dancing through rows of coniferous branches. There are a lot of spruce and pine in this part of the world, but birch and others too, of course. So, there have been people living around here for many centuries. But Knivsta, which basically translates to Knife Town, by the way, started expanding further in the late 1800s when the first part of the railway from Stockholm to Norrland was built. The first section connecting Stockholm and Uppsala was completed in 1866, with Knivsta station popping up on that line in 1876. Construction then continued for about 500 kilometres north, reaching Uunga in 1881, and then further construction, laying another 600 kilometres of track, reached Boden in 1894, up in Swedish Lapland. Thanks to Knivsta's position on this key train line, there grew a logging industry here, with brickworks and several sawmills. Here we are, though. You might be able to see the water peeping through the trees. And the weather still looks like it'll be perfect. Ah, this is a nice spot too. Särsta stugan. Stuga is the Swedish word for cabin. You can buy snacks and coffee at this little cabin tucked in the trees. Ideal for a Swedish fika or refreshing after a swim. Fika, by the way, is roughly translated to mean taking a coffee and cake break. But it's honestly more like a ritual in Sweden. It's seen as an essential part of daily life to take time for fika. It's all about slowing down for a while, refreshing the brain, socialising, catching up, and of course, drinking lots of coffee. But take a look at this. Särsta badet. A swimming and chill-out spot by Lake Veloxen. This place is incredibly popular on a hot summer's day, with beach volleyball and barbecues, people swimming in the lake and sunbathing. I really do love that sound of the wind in the leaves. What do you think of this then? Jump not from the handrail. Noted. I think that's a promise I can keep. Oh, yes. Thank you very much. This will do just nicely. Soak it up. Right. Let's set up here for a while. I'll put a blanket down and get comfortable. This spot is like a paradise for me. Those geese over on the diving platform have got the right idea. Looks like I've some neighbours on the wooden jetty across from me too. Well, I'm going to unwind for a bit as well. It almost feels like time stops when visiting such serene and beautiful places. Why don't we actually stop time for a while and not let anything else disturb us? There's just the here and now. We can let the rest of the world rush by and take a moment for ourselves to find calm, reflect, clear our minds, unleash our imaginations, and simply enjoy a beautiful story in a relaxing corner of what is a beautiful world. We are lucky to be here, and I, for one, am very grateful. So, Tove Jansson's The Dangerous Journey. Right. I got this particular copy from the English bookshop on Södermalm in Stockholm. I also got my hardback edition of Animal Farm in 1984 from there, actually. It's such a lovely store. They also have a cute one in Uppsala that I've popped into once or twice. But let's jump into the story. Earlier I mentioned the illustrations, remember? All the panels that run through this gorgeous English version were painted by Tove Jansson. She was quite the artist. Enough talking though. Let's begin. Susanna woke one morning, bored and confused and cross. She gave her cat a warning. She told it who was boss. She called it to a meeting out in the field of flowers. Cat, you are always eating. You munch, then snore for hours. You're old, cat, and you're lazy. Too peaceful, too serene. Not me, I'm wild and crazy, and I'm sick of all this green. A field, a tree, a petal, quite beautiful, it's true, but I'm far too young to settle for nothing much to do. I'd love it if some vandal turned green to sparkling gold. Danger, disaster, scandal. What might our futures hold? Cat yawned and didn't answer her. Susanna felt quite sick. He made so little effort. It was getting on her wick. Susanna took her glasses off in order to escape from the sight of her annoying pet's contented, napping shape. What was this? Another pair of glasses had appeared. Yet nobody had put them there. Weird, thought Susanna. Weird. She put the glasses on, since hers were nowhere to be found, and got a shock. Instead of lying idly on the ground, Cat was a spitting frizz of rage, rotating in the sky. with furious jaws and scratchy claws and fireballs in his eye. "Sorry, Kit," Susanna cried. "Don't go. I didn't mean it." She wondered if her eyes had lied. But no, she knew she'd seen it. She ran towards the forest that she played in all the time. Help! It was gone. The trees weren't there. Now there was just wet slime. The forest was a mangrove swamp, all dark and dank and strange. Susanna wished she'd never asked for anything to change. Water mirrored back her face in an alarming manner. Who's this wildcat in my place? And where is nice Susanna? What were those tracks across the ground? Oh no, oh please, not snakes. Snakes are the worst. They're worse than mud and monsters and mistakes. Please get me out of here, Susanna bellowed at the sky. I've got the point. I've had my fill. Soon I will start to cry. Calm down. We're the harmless kind, one little grass snake said. Susanna left them all behind and trembled as she fled. The sky was full of hot red clouds. Birds flew without a sound. The beach was still. Susanna heard the silence all around. She spotted footprints in the sand. "Oh, help!" she cried. "A beast! Oh, yikes! A cat! My sharp-toothed cat! Seeking a human feast!" Time to head for home, she thought. Proceed without delay. Adventure, yes, but not this sort. Yet something made her stay. Beside the cliff, beneath the rocks, the sea had drained away. No wet, no blue, no waves, no splash. It was as plain as day. The sea was gone, and in its place only a gaping void. A dreadful sight, but one Susanna secretly enjoyed. "I've got special powers," she smiled. "All this is down to me. I'm just a little girl, a child, but my mind has moved the sea." She wandered on, determined to explore the bright unknown, and met a hefty Hemulin. He wasn't on his own, but with a gang, one rather shy, two almost twins, both short. "If I decide they're nice, then they'll be nice," Susanna thought. "Hope's the only way to win. I've figured out the deal. First you put your order in, then your dream turns real." Hemulin said, "Susanna, hi!" Susanna said, "I guess you're rushing to a party and it must be fancy dress." "No, no," said Hemulin. "In fact, we always look like this. We're on our way to see a friend whose house is hard to miss. We've missed it, though, which rather grates. Missed berry picking, too." "Puff, scan cakes," squealed his near twin mates. What did they mean? Who knew? Hemulin, Bob, and Thin Gummy, those were his friends' strange names, all clustered round Susanna for some gossip, fun, and games. Hemulin's timid dog joined in his own whispery way. "This place looks wrong," said Hemulin. "I'd swear that yesterday birds weren't flying back to front, blueberries weren't lime green. Life's turned loopy, to be blunt. It's not at all my scene." Bob quite agreed. "A miteful fresh.
height quarrably funkusing. Whoever's glaying pains with us, they're linning and we're woozing.
Susanna said, I'm awfully afraid that I'm to blame. I only sat down in the grass while things were still the same. Then there was a frightful roar, as if the world was making more noise than it had made before. The ground would not stop shaking. Sniff galloped into view on fire. My tail's too hot, he yelped. 100 hatty fatteners hid who really should have helped. Preposterous twits, cried Emulin. Those hat fats, what do they know? Cancel all this, it's pure skew whiff. That's not the right volcano. Thingummy muttered.
Blazing blame, Bob said. It's head rot. Smelled up in woke, a shedful dream, when smelled is all we've got.
Once they had stopped, Sniff panicking, he really was uptight. They headed west to visit friends. Did west mean left? No, right. No, wrong. Their Moomin chums lived either in between that gap or... Oh, who cares? You'd have to be a fool to trust the map. Silence from the poor, conked-out volcano, where not oozing lava like a frenzied spout. He's pretty keen on snoozing. Night fell and snow fell, pounding like the drumsticks of a drummer. Emulin cried, Delete! Rewind! It's still the height of summer! The looming shadow of the Groke, face frightful in the fog, did nothing for the confidence of Emulin's small dog. Hiding in Susanna's hug was all that he could do. The dog's last name was Monymug. His first was Sorry Oo. I'm cold, whined Sniff. I've half a mind to light my tail again. Then Thingummy and Bob said words, but only 1 in 10 made sense to anyone at all.
We're absolutely easing. Let's go hack bomb for nice drawn winks, and please don't think we're teasing.
Did they take their own advice? The path became a slipping mirror made of silver ice, and every nose was dripping. 2 jolly chaps sat snug and warm around a boiling pot of Brussels sprout and onion soup, lovely and thick and hot.
Delicious soup, said Bob. Perfection for a tumbling rummy.
Emulin understood. He said, Bob thinks your soup smells yummy.
Tail's on fire again, Sniff wept. It's like the bad old days. I blame my friends. They're all inept.
Susanna tamed the blaze. They ate a ton of soup, then settled down to have a doze. A normal and appropriate reaction, I suppose. Snufkin and Whimsy dealt out cards inside their glowing den. Outside, wolves sang in harmony with howling winds, and then... Late that night, at 2 o'clock, Sniff woke up feeling sick. Onions, he cried. My tum's in shock. Oh, what a nasty trick. Next morning, they set off without directions or a map. Sniff hid beneath his quilt, which very nearly caused a scrap. Snufkin's advice that eastwards was the only way to go turned out to be the wrong advice. Sorry you cried.
Oh no! What a strange and jagged land!
He got in quite a state. No one else could understand his need to relocate. Until they heard hard snorts and grunts from further up the street, and thuds that brought to mind an angry monster's thumping feet. They ran away, as people scared of monsters tend to do. Sniff whimpered, "Stop, I think I'm coming down with stomach flu." Can our story wait for him? I'd interrupt this rhyme. But there's a waterfall to swim, and we're running out of time. The snorting creatures chasing them. Why? They've done nothing wrong. If they're as small and scared as this, he must be huge and strong. They hear his breath. They smell it too. Help! He will catch them soon. But what's this dropping from the sky? A red and gold balloon. Climb aboard a flying dream, a cheery voice calls out. It's not as hard as it might seem, if you know what you're about. It took a while for Soryu to wind and pack his tail. Tiki, who was piloting the red balloon, set sail. For sure, with flair and energy, she steered with all her might. As they escaped, they saw the snorting beast, a gruesome sight. "Look!" Susanna cried. "The sea! Balloon, swing! That's an order!" But Hemulin weighed 12 stone 3, so the red balloon ignored her. "We've got to lose some weight," Tiki told the gang. "The rocks you've all got in your pockets, or your hankies, or your socks will have to go." "Please, no," Sniff wailed. "My diamonds are to blame. It's great big dobbing Hemulin. He's kinda all the same." One by one the jewels were tossed. Poor Sniff went quite doolally. His friends said, "Everything you've lost, you'll find in Moomin Valley." Without Sniff's jewels, the red balloon felt positively slender. Everyone sensed that scrumptious treats were on today's agenda. They flew past mountains. There was Moomin Valley, bathed in sun. Soryu whooped with joy, and he was not the only one. Bob sighed, "Lovely drilky mink." Hemulin sighed, "Warm toffee." Thingummy said, "Hey, Suze, I think you'll love the cut-hung strophy." Everyone cried, "Balloon! Balloon! Quick, catch it! Grab the rope!" And Moomin Papa on the roof peered through his telescope, while Moomin Mama waved from the veranda's bright blue door. The grass, if you can credit it, was greener than before. They landed in a tulip field. "Steady," warned Moomin Papa. "There's my cat," Susanna squealed. "My furry full-time napper." "Good afternoon," Susanna curtsied, keen to get it right. Now was the time, she thought, to be impressively polite. "Look at her," giggled little me. "How strange. Why does she look exactly like a character you'd find inside a book?" Bob groaned. "Suze, I need you got. Me's the weirdest girl alive. Mimble, wumps, whole lolly jot. Hey, Moomin troll, high five." They had a lovely party. Well, what else should they have done? They throw a party every day, quite often more than one. Sometimes outside beneath the stars, or when it's cold indoors. Then, "Home time," said Susanna. "Are you coming, Mr. Paws?" Whether things turned out okay, she's never going to know. When adventure comes your way, enjoy it. Let it go. This new edition that I have here was published by Sort of Books, with the English translation by Sophie Hannah. One of Britain's best-selling poets, she created this version of Tove Jansson's original poem, which was written in Swedish, under the title Den farliga resan. I also have this beautiful notebook with me that I wanted to show you while we were here. I found it in a Swedish bookstore chain called Academy Bokhandeln. They have stores all over the country, but I came across this in a big one in central Stockholm. After pointing it out to my fiancée Maria, I couldn't help but get it for her as a little gift, as she adores Moomin Valley and Tove Jansson's work in general. She actually has a pretty extensive collection of Moomin coffee cups, which is about as Finnish a thing as I can think of. This embossed print of a scene from The Dangerous Journey is just wonderful. It even has a magnetic clasp there. And as you can see, it hasn't been written in yet. She might not use it though, with it being a pretty collectible thing in itself. We'll see. I'm sometimes surprised by how much I can miss actually flicking through and using a physical book. A lot of us rarely write with a pen and paper nowadays. And I personally spend more time with electronic books than real ones. I can find the experience not only nostalgic, but therapeutic. And I find it much more enjoyable. So yeah, lovely stuff. Before we move on and head into the forest for a while, before returning to the rest of the world, I have one other thing to show you. I brought my copy of A Little Princess by Frances Hodgson Burnett along for the walk, as I wanted to mention that I started this on a video a few weeks ago, but know that some of you that might enjoy it won't have tried it yet. I'm reading straight out of the pages of this adorable little book, so you can even read along with me if you like. It's a Puffin in Bloom edition, by the way, with cover illustrations from Anna Bond. And I'll be sharing my narration of chapters 2 and 3 in a video soon, where we'll be starting with a French lesson. So look out for that one. The book was part of a collection with 3 other classics, including Little Women and Anne of Green Gables. So it came with this sweet little bookmark as well. Okay. Well, we should stretch our legs. It's probably not best to get stuck here forever. Let's take a moment and then continue the day's adventure. The Earth truly is a remarkable place. Like Frances Hodgson Burnett suggests in her classic The Secret Garden. We really should be kind to it. It does take good care of us after all, as well as all the other inhabitants that we share it with. Time for a walk, though, I think. I'd really like to show you the forest just over the water there. Come on, let's go. We can come back here another time if you like. It's not too far. Just up this little slope, down the street, and then round the corner. And the sun is still shining. We have seriously been blessed by a glorious day today. You might be able to tell that we're right on the very edge of the town now. There are miles of relatively unbroken forest and countryside whichever way you go, but there's one very accessible stretch of woodland trail right down here. A few apartment blocks on one side, practically nothing but forest and lake on the other. Down to the left. Ah, here we have a statue placed among the trees. It looks to be of a conductor. Well, certainly of an organist. What with the pipes all around. Ah, Emil Sjögren, a Swedish composer. This must be dedicated to his memory. His position within the shelter of the organ pipes so elegantly alludes to the observer's place among the trees. I read that he moved to Knivsta in later life after having lived in Stockholm and Paris, settling here with Berta Dahlman, who he'd married back in 1897. Yes, this yellow house was theirs. Right by the forest and lake, it must have been such a calming change for them after decades of big city life. I wonder if they used to play football together. The gateway to the forest. You might have seen these wooden board walkways in my video up in Swedish Lapland. They're pretty smart. Here being used to clear an area of marsh. Certainly not recommended to jump in here without your river wading pants on. Birch. And soon you'll be able to see where we relaxed on the jetty, as this opens up into quite the view. Just across there. Let's scramble up this little slope. It's always nice to get a bit higher. Yeah, here we go. Oh, is that a swan? Oh, 2 for the price of 1. That view, with a white swan gracefully gliding along, thrown into the bargain. What fantastic timing. The water is so calm today. A fork in the road. Left. Whoop. If you like this, soon I'll be heading to Stockholm to visit a bunch of different places that I'd like to explore with you. And one trip will take me on a ferry into the Stockholm archipelago, which is a group of around 30,000 islands, skerries and rocks that fan out into the Baltic Sea. It's honestly breathtaking. But now, let's just enjoy this.